I used now in connection with the Madonna and the child. All my artwork has triggered from beginning on always enormous reactions, emotional reactions, but also very aggressive reactions. And especially in the beginning, like on my first exhibition, I remember that once day when I came to the exhibition, look at the work and the people, I saw that I had a sticker on each of my paintings, and it said, Entarte de Kunst, which means degenerate art. And again, at that time I didn't know anything about it. That's how I started to look it up and to learn and to search, you know. And then I found out that they called anything they didn't like, or Hitler didn't like, degenerate art. And when I think how many pictures have been destroyed, like Hitler burned more than 13,000 works of art in Berlin, and a much bigger number of paintings were confiscated and taken out of the museums and were sold in auctions in Switzerland. And what very few people know, that the income of these sold paintings went into the private pocket of Adolf Hitler. It was his personal revenge against the art.
Well, I think in anything that's really relevant and emotional art, is that there's some kind of a mirror that people experience. I don't think that you can recognize a feeling from something that you look at unless it's part of yourself. And so when someone is willing to take on the sadness, the irony, the ugliness, and the beauty in the kind of way that Gottfried does, it's something that is, I guess for me, it is relevant to consider it just that it is so clear, it is art. And so there's that, and then there's this striking talent that he does it with. So it's particular because of the talent. And the talent, like any talent, is largely the choice, as well as the skills that he has.
I bought this painting because it was one of the most impressive paintings I think I had ever seen. And it was also a good representation for me of how I grew up in America. Children are not as valid, so to speak, as they should be. It's the parents that control everything. And so you have the kid, who is the most important, I think, aspect of society, being treated as if, you know, he or she isn't. But it's actually the opposite. And so I got that from this painting. So it's amazing to see that reaction from people my age that were once kids growing up in the suburbs the way I grew up. It's almost universal when it's a person who has a similar reality to mine when they see this. They know almost right away, that's them, this is us, you know?
A great work of art for me is like you don't forget it. Yeah, that's why you have certain images that you don't forget. And that's the great privilege of an artist, that and that's the responsibility, that you can make people look at certain things that they would rather like to forget.
Look at these children. Look at these children's faces. Multiply their number by a few 100,000, and only then will you realize or gain an inkling of the extent of this Holocaust, the greatest tragedy in human history.
For me, Crystal Night, or Kristallnacht as the Nazis called it, was the crucial moment in this development. Because the idea that within one night all the synagogues burned, all the shops of Jewish people were destroyed. It was such an enormous blow. So when there was the 50th anniversary, I was amazed, because I was living close to Cologne. I was amazed that nobody talked about it. Nobody mentioned it. And so I said, I want to remember them.
It was Gottfried Helnwein's captivating and convincing idea to present the consequences of this period without mercy, in such an unconventional manner. He made no use of photos of heaped corpses. Children's portraits forced the observer to stop and face this idea.
I started to photograph children in the area of Cologne, and then I picked out different faces, blew them up, and lined them in a long row, just the faces. And at the beginning of this long row of pictures, I placed this word Selektion. And this German word Selektion, which of course means selection, is for me the key word to this tragedy. Because we're very often distracted when we talk about the Nazi time. We think of smartly dressed SS officers and rallies of thousands of people and things like that. But I think that's distracting. I always was interested in the roots, the idea of selection, the idea that a group of people has the right to select what is worth to live and what has no right to live, which is of course absolutely nonsense. That's why I wanted people to stand in that position, look at these faces and select. And then I found actually an amazing location right in front of the Dome of Cologne. It was a path that didn't belong to the city. It belongs to the Deutsche Bundesbahn, to the National Railway. And there was one guy in charge for anything that had to do with art projects. And I talked to the guy and I said, yeah, use it. And that was the most visible spot, So if you would stay in front of the Dome of Cologne or the Museum Ludwig or wherever you were, you saw that. And I was actually amazed what an emotional reaction I got from people. I like to reach out with my art to meet new people and to communicate. And I must say it's a learning process because I learn a lot from the reaction of people, from the questions they ask, from the stories they tell me. It's actually the resource and the main inspiration for my next artwork, always. For me, art was always a dialogue. 50% is the artist who produces it, and 50% is the onlooker. And you need both. And the second part is as important as the first part. And that's how I understand my work. So the test for me is always, does it work out in the street, on public places, with people who don't intend to a gallery, who don't care about art? So all these encounters are part of the process. And after a few days, in the night, somebody came and cut all the throats of all the children. And when I came, and I looked